I've interviewed seasoned doctors and I've interviewed doctors who have just graduated. And I feel that there's a little bit more humbleness to the new doctor because they're hungry. They're hungry to come out and they're hungry to be successful and they want to learn. And I love that you can mold them, like you can kind of say, no, this isn't the way we're going to treat the team, or this isn't the way we're going to talk to them.
I think the most important thing is communication. If we can define what the vision is, when you can share that and they have the understanding that it's for the greater good. I mean, our job isn't to have positions. Our job is to do no harm to our patients. And so I think when we have that vision and we share it, and there's no ego, there's no intimidation, it's getting the right person to fit the puzzle piece of the mission you're trying to create for the lives that you're dedicated and sacrificing to change.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, the podcast. This is episode number 399. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for being with us today. And today, it is truly an us show, as we did kind of a mini roundtable. There's three of us, Lisandra Maisonet, debbiez, and myself. We're on the show today. We talked about the things you can expect when you have a new grad doctor in the office. We talked about communication styles and expectations, training for them and for us, and just so much more. And if you joined us last week, you'll know that this episode was intended to be an extension or maybe a response to a previous episode that we did that featured a recent grad doctor giving his opinion on dentistry and the state of dentistry, I guess. So we wanted to kind of turn the tables and see what hygienists thought about working with these new grad doctors. So it was a fun idea, and I'm glad that we were able to get this one recorded. It was really a fun one to listen to. And then next week we have another roundtable. We're hitting a lot of roundtables lately, it feels like. This one was an impromptu roundtable. It was recorded at RDH Under One Roof. We were sitting down. I think it was between sessions, or it was between stuff that we had, but we were in the exhibit hall, and Dr. Joy Boyd Holmes was there. Michelle Hudson was there. Carrie Lepacek was there. And we just started talking about the things that hygienists talk about when we all get together. We started talking about, trying to be healthy or healthier. What does that look like? How do you get there as a clinician or as a speaker, or just aging human beings? How do we get better about doing the things? It was a really good one, and you're not going to want to miss that one. So make sure you come back next week for that. And then the last thing I just want to mention before we get into the interview today is that there is a bonus episode coming out on Saturday. It is with the amazing India Chance. And the overarching theme of that one is infection control and suction line maintenance. And I know that we've done those ones before, and I just kind of feel like it's such an important topic. We have to keep coming back to it. But sometimes people aren't really thrilled with those topics. But I'm telling you, this one was a really fun one to record also. India just makes it interesting, and it's not just about the suction line maintenance. There's so much more that she tells us about that you wouldn't hear any other way unless we're having this kind of overarching theme. So make sure you go to it. It was also recorded on the exhibit hall floor under one roof, so you're going to feel all the excitement from the room around us. Click that subscribe button. My hopes for that is if you click the subscribe button, it's going to download for you over the weekend. And then next week, when you're doing your commute or you're exercising or wherever you listen to us, you'll have a little podcast treat for you. So that'll be fun. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And thank you everyone so much, and enjoy your week, and enjoy this episode with Lisandra and Debbie.
A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome everyone into the interview portion of the podcast. We are having a hard time focusing and getting ready for this, apparently, as debbiez sings to us all the beautiful songs. Welcome both of you to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got two Philly girls in the house.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the audience knows exactly who you both are, but just, in case there's a new grad or someone who hasn't met you yet, can we do introductions first, starting with debbiez?
Sure. I'm Debbiez. I am a dental hygienist by trade. I am more into new product launch, writing, speaking, advocating for prevention. I have a nonprofit called the National Cancer Network, and I love what I do.
And I'm Lisa Maisonet, and I've been in this profession now for 34 years. I absolutely love it, have not lost my passion for it. In my current role, I get to run my practice start to finish, which is amazing. That means I get to implement everything dental hygienists think should be implemented in practice, and it's been great.
So you both have this, amazing passion and zeal. Before we get into like talking about the doctor's stuff that may or may not take a twist, how for the tenure, like why are you still so passionate and still love hygiene so much?
I think I like it because I love it. With everything that we go through, school being the insane asylum. I think it's I think it's about the ability to care for people. Using critical thinking, using our knowledge, using what we learned outside of school, what our beliefs are, and communicating the patient not just what our ability is to be a healer, but what their responsibility is with that and motivate them to carry it forward. So I think that's what still keeps me in the game. Obviously, my colleagues learning, bringing new products to market, and being responsible for having a voice to the companies that want to bring things that that will actually help us. So I think that
Yeah,
keeps me in the game too.
I love it.
And for me, I think it's delving into all the latest and greatest, right? So dentistry is ever evolving and you have to stay on top of things. And I think when new things come out that can help lead patients to better health, it gets you excited. And you're like, okay, let's try this and let's see what can happen. And let's see where we can take a mouth that's, failing to a mouth that's healthy and someone who's going to be able to enjoy overall health. And obviously, attending these conferences and being around colleagues that are just as passionate, so important to keep that passion and fire going because you can talk to each other, you can vent to each other, you can say, this
Commiserate.
went well, that went bad. And you'll
Yeah.
hear from 30 other people that they went through the same thing. So
Yeah,
it's
Mhm.
been great.
yeah.
Yeah, we're never alone, and you're right. Like everything's always changing in dentistry. I think that's what for me that's what kind of keeps me interested. I'm like, ooh, the next new thing.
Mhm.
Okay, how is that going to work? And also sometimes I like being that person. It's like, oh, this is going to suck. Like this is not a good
Yeah,
invention, or this is not a good product, or
Yeah.
I can't believe we're doing this, or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
right.
all right. So the topic today is just a little bit of a background for the audience who hasn't heard this already. Probably about 2 months ago, I had Dr. Ben Holbert on. He's a recent grad, not a new grad. So he's been out a few years. He's worked in private practice. He worked in DSO. He worked in all the different things in different insurances, different populations, big town, small town, all of the stuff, right? In 3 years. Like this is
Wow.
incredible at
Mm.
all his experience. And so I was interviewing him, I'm like, you're not typical. Like you, this is not this. I mean, I don't say it wasn't a good interview, but like you're not who should be representing new grads, right? So then I thought, you know what? Let's have a roundtable. Let's talk about our experiences working with new slash recent, younger, newer doctors in the profession and just kind of get our own feelings. So first question is love or hate new grads?
Love.
Oh,
Is that a
Oh,
bad? I'm going to say
no,
love.
I don't know. Oh, no, we're going to find out. Debbie Z, what are
well,
you, are you
I
on
don't.
you
I don't
love?
want to say I love or hate. I think it really depends on the individual, right? Because a lot of
Mm,
people go to school and they come out and they have their own perspective of kind of what kind of practice they want. Um, I will say the ones that I've interacted with, I really love them, but I have had a few encounters with newer graduates that may have somehow been influenced by the I'm trying to be politically correct so people continue to like me. But I think that it comes with this stigma when you work with a powerful hygienist or a knowledgeable hygienist or an
yeah.
experienced hygienist and you're a new grad. Sometimes they feel intimidated and they feel that they may be the dentist and we are just whatever that just is to them. But I think nowadays they're the at least the ones I've interacted with, and I think Lisandra said the same thing. They're amazing. You just get you get kind of a zinger in the group every once in a while.
Yeah. No, this is gonna be maybe again another terrible podcast. I love new grad docs. But Lisa, let's go back to you. So like why, I mean, emphatically you said
Yeah.
love. Why?
I think
Why?
I'm in a different situation because I
Yeah,
get to interview and hire who I want to bring into my practice, right?
Yeah, that is
So
a little
it is a
different.
little different because I get to, talk to different doctors. And in interviewing, I've interviewed seasoned doctors and I've interviewed doctors who have just graduated. And I feel that there's a little bit more humbleness to the new doctor because they're hungry.
Mm,
yeah,
They're hungry to come out and they're hungry to be successful and they want to learn at least, a lot of the and I did work with 28 other offices where we were constantly hiring new doctors. So I have had
mhm.
interactions with many and yes, Debbie, some of them that I could just set them aside, right? But a lot of them, I love their passion. And I think that here's a secret too, and I think doctors need to jump on this is we need more dental hygienists running practices because we have the capability to make a practice successful. And, my practice is an example. When they brought me in to manage it fully, we were probably producing $300,000 a year. And 3 years later, we're at almost 1.4 million in collections a year with
Wow.
only three treatment rooms, one
Great
doctor, one
job.
hygienist. Yes,
Really?
and that is working with new doctors both times
high
to get
five.
there. So I love their passion. I love that they are hungry to learn.
Yeah,
And I love that you can mold them. So if they do
Mhm.
try to push the doctor,
yeah,
like you can kind of say, no, this isn't the way we're going to treat the team, or this isn't the way we're going to talk to them. If you want to be successful, you can't be successful without this team. So there has to be a way of approaching them. So
yeah,
I think we can mold them.
You have a different power dynamic that I think that most hygienists have working with the docs, though. If I'm going to be like, just call it as I
Yeah.
see it, you also are kind of you're in charge of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
And so me working with them, it was a little bit harder because I'm trying to balance like, don't get me fired for telling you you're wrong,
Yeah.
yeah,
doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, like even Debbie Z said this earlier, is like they might be a little bit intimidated by
mhm,
you for all the stuff that you know.
right.
Mhm.
So maybe let's ask this for you, Debbie. How do you overcome that? How do you create a good relationship with a new grad doctor when you've been working, successfully for years on years?
I think the most important thing is communication. If we can define what the vision is, if we have an established office like, what Lysandra's, enabling in Philadelphia, when you can share that and they have the understanding that it's for the greater good. I mean, our job isn't to have positions. Our job is to do no harm to our patients. And so I think when we
Mhm.
have that vision and we share it and there's no ego, there's no intimidation. It's getting the right person to fit the puzzle piece of the mission you're trying to create for the lives that you're dedicated and sacrificing to change. And so I think communication is the biggest thing, and realizing that if it doesn't work, just like in any relationship, it's love them enough to let them go because that
Mhm.
other person's waiting for it. And I think a lot of the times, I mean, I've worked. I mean, I see so many faces popping ahead of me. When you see them get it, and you see that they pick up that vulnerability of, wow, I didn't learn this in dental school. Wow, he or she is spending the majority of time with the patients that need to love me as a dentist, because there's that whole stigma that they have to overcome too, that we're the catalyst to all of that. And it's the
Yeah.
bridge to bind the team together, because even for when I speak or do things like this, it's always about educating the team. When we train as a team, we succeed as a team. And most of the teams are led in the majority of practice that we are in, either by a corporation, an independent dentist, and now hygienists. So we have to function as a team and really push that needle outside of, you're not my boss and you're not my boss. That those days are gone. At least I
Mhm.
hope so.
Now, I mean, Lisa, you don't have to answer this, but kind of piggybacking on the team mentality, a lot of us look at team as I bring this much to the table, they'll bring this much to the table, and that's kind of quote unquote working together, right? Or we're, kind of feeding each other on their plate. Do you want to talk about like hygiene production in your office versus doctor production and what that looks like?
Yeah. So, when we talk about hygiene production and we say, okay, the hygienists have to make 3 times the amount of what they're bringing, or, yeah, that's important for them to know their KPIs and know what they're bringing to the table. But for me, for my hygienist, and the doctor agrees with this, it's not so much about her meeting those number KPIs. It's about, are you establishing relationships with patients that then have them go ahead and say, yeah, you know what? I trust you. You're saying what the doctor's recommending is right. So we're going to move forward with treatment plans. We're going to move forward. So, yeah, goals are good. Is my hygienist always at third? No, she's not. There's months that she misses that. We're highly PPO based. So we can't expect for her to have to meet these high astronomical goals. But I mean, for my doctor, we do a lot of implant dentistry too, rehabilitation. So that's where we're able to do what we do. And yeah, numbers are important, and it depends. I think hygienists are goal oriented, right? So when you give them
Sure.
goals, I think it gives them something to work towards. My hygienist, and she wouldn't care if I said this, she's a nervous Nelly. So she gets very nervous, if I show her numbers and then she's like, oh my God, are you going to let me? And it's never like that, right? So you need to learn how to approach people differently
Yeah.
depending on their personalities. Just because they aren't always at a certain number doesn't mean that they're not great for your team. And talk about team. We have open meetings with our team, and I'm not the one who tells the doctor what he's doing wrong. It's the team, because we have open meetings, right? So if
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
taking 2 hours to treatment plan something, we tell him you have to be more confident in treatment planning, or I'll treatment plan and then you look at it and say yes or no. So that's one of the downsides about new doctors. I think the confidence level, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to recommending treatment, isn't there. So it's important for them to work hand in hand with their hygienist who have
Sure.
experience, right? And we're not diagnosing, but I can look at a set of x-rays and know what the doctor is going to recommend.
Right.
For
When
sure.
they
For sure.
realize that, they will be successful. Like when they realize that co-therapy and that, mentality, that real team
Yeah.
work, they're
It's a
going to be
beautiful thing.
successful. They're going
Yeah.
to be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. What are some other things that the new grads and recent grads are more likely to not be good at? So, and the purpose of this isn't to be like, oh, doctors, you suck. Haha.
No.
It's to be like, we need to have compassion and understanding too. Like we were not great coming out of school. I'm so sorry. Whoever thinks that they're just like God's gift to the world right out of school. It's just, you're not.
Right.
So what are some things that we need to be aware of, and things that maybe we could help them with? You mentioned treatment planning is a good one. What else do we have?
I think products. I think
Mm,
products outside of their like little cubbyhole, they want to know what they need to know, but we need to know what they know, as a hygienist. If the doctor is placing an implant and there's a probiotic that we can recommend prior, to placing the implant, or even let's just take it back to, why did the patient lose a natural tooth? Are
yeah.
we doing salivary diagnostics to identify the bacteria that would put the patient at risk for failure? Why don't they know that? Right. So I think a
Mhm.
lot of times it has to do with understanding the value of a rep that's coming into the practice, and it's just not for a free lunch, but really understanding the value of we talked about it earlier, new technologies or new products to help support the success, and with that understanding, then they can reinforce when they come in to do an exam, or if they're doing a treatment plan, say the reason we're recommending this versus we're going to sell you something, right? So I think there's a huge disconnect with that mentality. So many doctors don't want to sell anything. Well, you open up your
Mhm.
doors, you're selling from the moment you open your door. So I think the product level and the value of the team understanding what the doctor's thought process is when doing a treatment plan. Because I will say I've seen treatment plans that were so restorative heavy, but yet the hygiene was like a cesspool. And so it's not about building something on a sinking ship. It's about, how do we communicate the value of total body health and wellness, and the why before the do, so you don't have to redo.
Mhm.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the technologies too, right? So sometimes even as new doctors, they come out and they're very comfortable and, oh, the assistant will do all the scanning and and then when something goes wrong, like you need to know to be able to do this too. And I think as practice owners, we need to also invest in their education, right? So they're new. We can't expect them to, and our business owner of all the practices, he brings in these new doctors and he's like, oh, I want you doing 700 crowns a month and well, you can't expect that from someone new, right? Are you giving them the education? They were in dental school. A lot of these doctors that are new graduated during COVID times, right? So
Mhm.
they didn't even get all the clinical knowledge that they needed to. So
Yeah.
for me, like I will invest it. We just invested over $30,000 to send my doctor for more implant training. And in the end, we
Wonderful.
get it back, right?
Yeah, of course.
So
For sure.
now he wants to go to a complications course. I'm like, let's sign you up. Like, so yeah, we have to understand that, like anyone, when you're new, you have to still learn. You have to
Right.
continue to learn,
Mhm.
right?
Well, you
So
have to be open to learning. I think
yeah,
that's the
yeah,
biggest thing.
yeah.
Because I think sometimes too, a new graduate thinks they know everything just because they
Yeah.
graduated last year, when
Mhm.
in essence, and I hate to even say this out loud, forgive me, please. What we've been taught is the same thing we've been taught since the beginning of time, with a little change.
Sure.
I'll tell you what, though, they learn real quick to get off of that high horse when they get a difficult patient,
Yeah,
right? And all of a sudden,
True.
they didn't do it perfectly, right? Because they still needed more training.
right,
So
right.
they
Mhm.
learn that lesson real fast.
Yeah,
You let these doctors off nice. I have a list here of like 8 different things that I'm like, "Oh, okay, they suck at software, their speed is crap, they don't know how to do a crown prep for save their
Oh,
lives."
no.
For, like, removables, they don't know how to do removables. Perio treatment planning, you guys are just
Oh.
too kind to these doctors.
Well, then
Let me
maybe, Andrew, maybe the problem is that the offices aren't spending the time to communicate with them,
yeah.
right?
Maybe
I
the
think you're
setup,
exactly
maybe
right,
the onboarding or
honestly.
setup isn't, you know?
I'm glad that you said that because that's the next
Oh,
question.
Mhm.
Let's talk about ideal
Mm.
onboarding. What does that look like?
I
well, go ahead. Go ahead. I think you have a couple pages of, notes on that.
I could talk for hours on this. So for us, it starts for me with my new doctors with our hygiene system. So absolutely they need to know everything that we've implemented in hygiene, the salivary testing, the airflow therapy, the phase microscopy. What do you know about it? What don't you know about it? The 20-20-20, don't be coming in, at the end of the appointment for your exam. You're coming in after assessment is done.
Right,
So
Mhm.
preventive is really big. That's one of the main focuses, and letting them know that I won't help close on a treatment plan where a patient won't follow through with hygiene services first.
right.
So I don't care if it's $30,000, $40,000. We're not doing anything if the gums and the foundation is unhealthy. So that's really important to teach because sometimes they get so excited about, oh, we're doing all this restorative work. And they don't think my first doctor, I always had to get on him about it because he was all about, let's just restore. And I'm like, let's hygiene and
Yeah,
then let's restore. So,
yeah,
I mean, really teaching them the importance of that. And then just, let it honestly, like letting them know if you need to vent or talk. This is hard for them, right? So my doctor came from an office where all he did were cleanings, and he came to an office where he is bombarded with tons of work, and that can be stressful.
yeah,
So for me, I have open I'll close the door. How are you doing, Dr. Kessler? Are you
yeah,
okay? Like I'll have candid conversations to keep him mentally healthy
yeah,
because, they have their loans. He shares with me. I think he has over $400,000 in loans, and payments are
can
starting
imagine.
up. So they have a lot of stress, right? So for us, the
Mhm.
team, I think we need to realize that and be a little bit empathetic and, try to at least hold their hand a little bit because they do need that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you feel like being an associate is easier in some ways, or is it harder in some ways?
It Deb, are you good? So it can be hard, right? So for
Yeah,
me, I want my doctor to buy into the practice because when you have an associate who isn't vested in the practice in some way, you
Yeah.
lose them like this
Gotta
if
have
other
skin in the game.
opportunities come. So you've built up this great thing. And then all of a sudden the doctor says, oh, I'm going to move on to another office because
Right.
I can do more of this. And that kills you, right? Because you've worked
You
so
invested all
hard.
the time. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah.
I like associates. I just wish that, every practice thought of how can we get them to own a certain amount of the practice so that they're vested.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm always confused by that because, these doctors, and I work mostly DSO, right? So we see a lot of youngins coming through here, and these doctors, some of them are just so happy to have a job, which is really interesting. Some of them are they're vested in the practice to a certain degree as long as they're
Mhm.
enjoying coming to work, but they like I think their vision of what dentistry was going to be is completely different than what it actually is. So like, oh, if I can get a decent paycheck and then just like not have to worry about doing all the
Everything
paperwork and
else.
doing all the hiring and
Right.
firing, all that stuff, I love it.
Right.
But then you have these doctors, and there were several of them that I worked with that were just like the most amazing, that they continue to
Yeah.
level up, and you're like, crap, okay,
Yeah.
6 months, you're out of here. All right, 3 months, you're out of here.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, there's your 2 week notice. Like, dang
Mhm.
it.
Right.
Like, stay here, stay here.
Mhm.
But they deserve to be an owner though,
Right.
too, like a practice owner.
Yes, for sure.
So characteristics, let's kind of come back to this one a little bit. So characteristics of a new doctor, which ones drive you crazy? I'll tell you mine just so you can kind of like think about, because I keep throwing these peppers at you. Like, oh, guess mine's being passive.
Passive.
I don't like a passive new grad doctor. I not someone that's like super, super crazy, but I want someone that's like not going to be too go with the flow,
Right.
which is weird. It's like counterintuitive.
Yeah.
You want them to go with the flow, but no, I don't. Which characteristics drive you crazy?
Um, I think passive is a nice word. I think somebody who can see an opportunity just for the opportunity to kind of slink in and slink out. I don't resonate with that kind of energy. So I like somebody who is bringing ideas. Sometimes when you have somebody new
Mhm.
come in, they see things that have become routine to you, so you don't see it. So I encourage that kind of conversation because sometimes we don't notice things like that. But things that I don't like are people who or new associates that know it all, want to be it all, and then don't really mesh with the energy that we're promoting. Because
Mm.
the patient really needs to trust them. I mean, they love us, so that's no big deal, but they really need to trust the dentist, and it's a difficult conversation. I was only in one office very very early in my career where there was a new associate for an established practice, and he was he was in the wrong place, and none of the patients liked him. And when they would come into hygiene, they were like, "Deb, what do you think? Should I do it?" And I would be like, I'm like, I can't tell a lie. So I think we
Yeah.
need to see the owner doctor and allow him to, so, and then that relationship, they kind of like weed themselves out anyway, because it just
Oh yeah.
doesn't work. I mean, the energy, it's just too chaotic. So,
For me, probably unorganization. So if
Oh.
you want to do big cases, if you want to do things, then you need to know that it falls on you to call in the scripts. It falls on you to send in things to the lab that we need. It
mhm,
falls on you. And
good
I
point.
think sometimes like they want a lot, but they don't realize how much work goes into it.
Right.
And
Mhm.
most dentists are not organized.
Yeah.
You don't say.
So then
Have you seen their handwriting?
yeah.
I mean, come on.
So then
Just
it
kidding.
falls on everyone else. So I think that and
Yeah.
I'm with you with passive. I don't want a yes sir, yes ma'am kind of doctor.
Yeah.
I love leaders. I will hire leaders all day in the practice. I love them.
Yeah.
Not intimidated
Same.
by leaders at all.
Yeah.
Have a backbone. Just like stand.
Yeah.
You guys talked on it earlier too. Ethics. Like someone that's
Ugh,
unethical also drives me crazy. So,
arrivederci.
but
Yeah. No way. Yeah.
I actually haven't worked with a lot of unethical doctors,
Yeah.
thank goodness. And I don't know if things have changed in school or whatever, but a lot of the younger docs that I have, like, they're almost scared to mess up, like, or to make the wrong call. Like, they really are like, okay, I'm gonna lose my license, my whole livelihood. I'm,
Mhm.
$800,000 in debt or whatever it was. So, okay, last question. I can't believe 25 minutes have already flown by.
Gosh darn it.
All right, so last question. Now, this is gonna be more for like the new grad or maybe even student hygienists, knowing that they're probably going to go into an office or at least sometime in their career experience this? What is your best advice in working with a new grad doctor?
Oh my. I think the first word that comes out of my mouth would be respectful and be open-minded. You know, come with gratitude, come with grace, but don't come with an attitude, but come with an opinion, come with a perspective. Don't come with a problem, come with a solution, and just continue to work at it, because inevitably, if you're coming with a pure heart and this is what you believe in is in the best interest of the patient and you do no harm, you know, I think that would really solidify a bi-directional respect for both clinicians and the rest of the team. It could go for the rest of the team as well.
Yeah, and for me, it's establish a relationship from the start. So sit with the doctor and say, I want to know your ways. I want to know your treatment philosophy. Let's set up meetings where we look at x-rays. We treatment plan together so that I can learn what you would recommend. So that way, when we are doing exams in a treatment room together, it's not you're feeling like I'm talking down to you and you're the doctor. So get to know each other. You know, they need to know the hygienist needs to know the doctor. I love doing these things in practice, just sitting with the doctor and saying, okay, we think you would recommend this, that, and that. Are we right? Are we wrong? And it's kind of a game, you know, and that way it's not intimidating. And I think the doctors appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to get to learn their ways. And then when you're having these meetings, you can also talk to them about why chlorhexidine isn't the best rinse when you do scalings, because that's what they learn, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice, like Debbie said, respectful conversations. I think some hygienists want to come strong, you know, come at the doctors strong, and, you know, they're the doctors and they don't take well to that. So you have to learn how to approach them in a respectful way, professional way, and you'll go a long way.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that you both were way more respectful to the new grads than I was on this episode. And I thank you for that balance. But the good news is I think that we all just love, you know, our doctors. And I think that really kind of shines through. If anyone wanted to reach out to either of you, ask you more questions or just kind of check in, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Email's good for me if you want to share my email.
Yep. debbiez at Vigilant.
You want to say
that?
that?
Go ahead.
Lisandra, which is my first name, LISANDRARDH @gmail.com.
And I'm debbiez, DEBBIEZ as in zebra, at vigilanthygienist.com.
And we'll for sure put those in the show notes. Thank you both for being here.
This was
awesome.
This was so fun.
It was. Thanks for having us, Andrew. This is exciting.
For sure.
Of course.
All right.
Well, good luck, everyone. Have a great night.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.